must compliment and welcome Professor Saviotti and compliment Dr. Nadeem Javed for getting him over. I have a strong French connection with my own PhD from France, and I was particularly happy when I was asked to be there. So I'll be bringing some of that French theory also in my comment. Now, the general conceptual understanding of the model rests on one major statement, which is that firms should or could innovate to meet the demand even if the consumers aren't fully aware of the demand. Discussion that he brings in is the difference between the substitute products where you innovate in the existing product somewhat and then bring to the market, which eventually leads to the saturation of efficiency also. So you bring in new products to respond to the new needs. With passage of time, those needs would also now be realized by the consumer, and that is how the economic structure changes and expands. Now, that is the basic model, which in my mind helps a lot to understand the economic expansion in Pakistan over the last 25 years. Now, contrary to the general impression that Pakistan has been experiencing an anemic GDP and exports, the field evidence is very different. If you look at the expansion in urbanization, retail, wholesale, even in small secondary cities, you have the price of land in millions, and you have all the brands. So Pakistan economy in that sense has expanded a lot, and its economic structure is dramatically, I would say, transformed. Now, Professor Saviotti helps us understand the underlying phenomena which is there, which I just explained. Now, how did it happen in our side? Did our firms tap into the imperfect knowledge of the demand of the consumer? No. It was, now flip the situation and imagine Pakistan as an importer. So it was the exporting country, or the FDI which came to Pakistan seeking market, which discovered that unmet demand, which the consumer doesn't even know that he needs that, and with the help of advertising, expanded that demand and then started meeting that demand, which resulted in the form of economic development. Now, that is one area which is important to understand, and when I'm making that comment, I'm addressing more to the students and the researchers that how Professor Saviotti's approach, which is extremely important, can help us better understand where we are and develop the way forward. Now, if we look at our exports, we are stagnant in our exports due to the same reason that Professor Saviotti has explained, that the same products slightly modified, and we do not have the companies to do the research on the tastes or demands of imperfect demand in our importing countries. So what has happened is that the FDI, with advertisement, created new needs and markets, which was then also provided by the local manufacturing. So that gives the whole story that how our local manufacturing has expanded. Look at the example of detergents, for example. With the help of the machine wash advertisements, the demand for machine wash has gone very high. Some multinationals, which are very expensive, meet the demand, but then there's a mushroom growth of detergent producers, which is economic activity meeting the demand. Then quickly, coming to the fourth point, which I'm taking it to Professor Saviotti, basically, that Pakistan has expanded a lot, but this model where you focus a lot on creating induced demand, one way to understand is that when a company says that the consumer doesn't know what his actual demand is, and I'll meet that demand, so that could be an induced demand, you are perfectly okay, but the social media tells you that you're not that beautiful and you must have plastic surgery, for example. Now, is this induced demand? Is this a demand about that which you have in imperfect knowledge? Now, the question of equity brings us to the current problems with our development model. We have massively expanded, our economic structure has changed, our economy is servitized, but which are the major problems? There are 6 problems which I would like to put to Professor Saviotti also. Number 1 is with the induced markets, just talked about detergents. Second is the efficiency. That point which Professor Saviotti has brought is extremely important. We keep on talking about productivity and efficiency, but he has told us about the limits and saturations of efficiency. There's another way, there's a lot of literature these days on asking to put a pause button on efficiency. Now look at wheat, what is happening in wheat. That in wheat, in the name of supply chain efficiency, we have allowed speculation. We have allowed investment across the supply chain of wheat, and the result is in front of us. Or, I've recently written a paper on the limits of productionism. Producing for profit also takes efficiency to those heights which are undesirable. Now, the next problem that we have is that we talk a lot about elite capture. Now, what is the objective of elite capture? Now, here I'll bring an insight from another French intellectual, that is Pierre, who says that the cultural capital focuses on the renewal of knowledge and tastes of upper classes, and they make the necessary arrangements for the perpetuation of those tastes. Now, the social status, for example, if the needs and wants of the upper class through social status is the main objective, then the productive resources of the economy would be spent almost entirely on meeting the needs, what they define as a want, of the upper classes. So that is the objective of the elite capture. The political aspect is also there, but the actual objective of the elite capture is the capture of the national resources, including the human resource, technological resource, and the natural resources. So there, what is happening is that Pakistan, over the past 20, 25 years, has had immense consumption of fun-related products. I've written another paper that why in Pakistan the IMF programs with all that austerity do not create the social unrest. What happens is that the upper classes with their conspicuous consumptions, they bother much little about the environmental damage or the labor rights or an equitable distribution. So the issue with the equity. And number 4 is that are we in an eternal catch-up if our needs are being defined by our exporter who is exporting to us and through international media and through social media. Now there, the second last point is that AI, as Professor Saviotti has said, offers a great opportunity provided it does not reproduce the elite structures of knowledge and taste and consumption. Then the AI would be used by bigger companies to know your needs in a very good way, even the needs that you don't know. So instead of taking AI to health and climate change and education, we may be seeing more of the same thing. And the last question, Dr. Saviotti, I have is that how do you apply your model on a servitized economy? You've spoken about the co-creation of creativity and innovation, but the co-creation in services sector is where the producer gives this impression to the user that as if he is providing a co-created value, which is a big problem. And there now we have a current scenario wherein the goods where we are exporting more, we would have these tariff barriers, but in services there is a much bigger push for the integration of services sector, which is the integration of the consumption styles which the more modern advanced companies would benefit.